This video, I just want to briefly describe how to write SQL programming in Access and also cover how to create calculated fields and use parameters in SQL. So just to review, to write a SQL in Access, you click on Create Query Design, you close the Show Table dialog box, and on the status bar, you click the SQL button and you then begin to write your SQL clauses. You switch back and forth on the status bar, or you can run the query and then switch back to SQL view. But just remember, when you finish typing your SQL clauses, the very last clause must have a semicolon. All right, let's talk about how to add a calculated field now. It's completely the opposite syntax as if you were creating a calculated field in Design View in a query. So in a query in Design View, you start by typing the new field name. For example, here's a new field name, commission. And then you separate the field name from the expression using a colon. And then on the right-hand side of the colon, you actually create the expression. And in this example, it takes the field name list price and multiplies it by 6%. And that will be a new field called commission. In SQL, you start out by typing the expression or calculation first, and you use the as clause to name the new field. So in SQL, it would be written list price times 0.06 or 6% as commission. In other words, you'd have a new field called commission that would take the field information in list price and multiply it by 0.06. Now, if your field names are have spaces, enclose them in brackets. You write the calculated field on the select clause, and you can add some more complicated calculated fields by using the concatenate operator, which is the ampersand. And I'm going to just show you and show you how to do that in a moment. So, some examples of a calculated field. On my select command clause, I select the first name, last name, and then I'm going to list the field called potential commission, and it's going to be calculated by taking list price times 0.06. When I run that, you're going to see three fields: first name, last name, potential commission. Or you can use the calculation on your where when you're creating constraints. So in this example, it shows you where sold price is greater than the list price times 1.05. So this would list all the records where any value in sold price is 1.05 more than list price. Here's an example of using the concatenate operator. In my select clause, I'm going to take the first name field and combine it with a space, and then combine it with last name, and I'm going to rename that combination as employee name. So you're going to see one field name called employee name, and it's going to combine the first name field, a space, and the last name field. And for example, here in this one, you can use what's called the left function. So what this last example here is, the left function is going to take the first character from the first name field, and it's going to combine it with a period, and then combine it with the full last name, and that's going to create the student ID. So you're going to have a new field called student ID. It's going to have the first character in your first name or your initial, period, last name. Okay? Now, when you're doing parameters, you include it just like the criteria row. Your parameters are included in the brackets, and your parameters are always included in the where clause. An example, here's an example where you say where your listing square feet is greater than or equal to, and it says please enter the minimum square footage of the property. So when you run this, you're going to get the message that says enter the minimum square footage of the property. You put that in and say 100 square feet, and then it's going to list anything where the listing square feet is greater than or equal to 100. In my second example, I'm going to take the list price from listing field. I'm going to see if it's greater than or equal to maximum list price, and the listing city is equal to what city. So this is going to give you two parameters. You're going to have to enter the maximum list price, and then you're also going to have to enter the city. And then in the third example is where you can use the like and the ampersand. So you can either enter a city or you leave it blank. If you put the city in, it'll match anything where the city matches in your listing table. Or if you leave it blank, it's going to list all cities. Okay, let me show you an example. Let's start out with create a query in Design View, close Show Table, and open the SQL panel. All right, the first thing I want to do is I just want to show, I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you the listing ID, listing ID, comma, my list price, comma, and then I'm going to show potential commission. So I'm going to take my list price field, multiply it times 0.06, and I'm going to name it as potential commission. Okay, and this is from my listings table. If I click Run, you can see it listed the ID, it listed my list price, and it calculated a brand new field called potential commission, which is 6% of list price. All right, let's enhance it a little bit more. This time I want to see who's going to get that potential commission. So I want to list the first name, and a space, and last name. Oops, sorry. And my fields are in brackets. And I'm going to name that as, and we're going to name the agent's name. And notice the agent's name is two words, so I'm going to include it in a bracket and comma. Okay, so I'm listing the first name. I'm going to combine the first name, a space, last name, and create a new field called agent's name. Then next to that agent is going to show its listing ID, the price, and its potential commission. Now I have to add another field, so I'm going to add the agent's table. I'm sorry, I have to add another table, agent's table, to the listing table. When I click Run, you can see I don't have two fields here. I have one new calculated field that took the agent's first name, combined it with a space, and then the last name. And then here's this agent's listing ID, here's the list price, and there is their potential commission. Okay? All right, we're going to go a little bit further. Now what I want to do is I want to actually be able to enter the person's first or last name. So after my from, I'm going to add the where clause, and I'm going to say in parentheses, first name equals, and I'm going to enter a bracket, and I'm going to say please enter the first name of agent with a colon and close it with brackets. And then I also want to put in the last name. So I'm going to say the last name equals, and I'm going to say please enter the last name of agent, bracket, okay, and finish with a parentheses. All right, let's see how that works. I'm going to run. It says, please enter the first name of the agent. Now I'm just going to know one of my agent's first name is try, and the agent's last name is un. And when I click OK, notice I only get try un's first and last name. Now that works great when you know each agent's first and last name. But let's say you want to run this and you don't know the agent's names, you have to look them up first. So what you want to do is actually add the star at the end, so that if you leave it blank, if somebody leaves it blank, it will show all records. So right before my semicolon, after the parentheses at the end here, I'm going to type a space, and I'm going to add my ampersand or my concatenate, and I'm just going to go quote, star, quote. And that, so if you leave the parameters blank, it will run and list all the records. Okay? So I'm going to click run. I don't know my agent's first name. I'm just going to click OK. I don't know my agent's last name. I'm going to click OK. And notice it lists all the person's agent, or all the agents at this point. Okay? And that is how you can do concatenate as a calculated field. It's how you create a calculated field, and it also shows you where you can do some concatenation or some parameter queries in the where clause. So select, from, and where, along with order by, are the 4 main clauses in a SQL.